is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
President Xi Jinping praises Hubei's contribution to coronavirus pandemic control. China's Foreign Minister Wang says China working with G20 on debt relief for Africa. And over 110,000 coronavirus infections recorded across Africa. This is CGTN. Hello, welcome to Africa Live with me, Beatrice Marshall in Nairobi. Also coming up on the program, the AUC Deputy Chair thanks China for efforts in helping African countries battle the COVID-19 pandemic. And an Egyptian couple uses the lockdown to reconnect. First, to China's annual 2 sessions, the country's biggest annual political meetings. And President Xi Jinping has used the opportunity to praise the people of Wuhan City and Hubei Province, the epicenter of China's battle against COVID-19.
The people of Hubei Province and Wuhan City have made significant contribution and great sacrifice during our pandemic control and management work. Wuhan is indeed a heroic city, and the citizens in Hubei Province and Wuhan City are indeed heroes of our people. I would like to extend the most honest greetings and the most sincere gratitude to all the cadres and the people here, as well as in Hubei Province.
President Xi made the remarks on Sunday when he joined a session of the Hubei NPC delegation. He said the prevention and control of public health risks is a matter of national security and development and of social and political stability. He stressed the importance of building a comprehensive, scientific and efficient public health system. President Xi Jinping said China should improve its capacity in epidemic monitoring, early warning and emergency responses. He warned about the risk of cross-border transmissions and noted the number of asymptomatic cases. He said the central government has worked out a package of policies to support economic growth in Hubei Province, and he also spoke about the need to continue this task of eradicating extreme poverty. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang has faced the media to answer questions about China's diplomatic policy and foreign relations. Our reporter Sheng Yibing has the details.
This year's political meetings in Beijing come amid the ongoing global pandemic, and COVID-19 dominated Foreign Minister Wang Yi's press conference.
The virus cannot defeat humanity. We will eventually prevail.
China has given an additional $50 million to the World Health Organization since March. It's also promised $2 billion of international aid in the coming 2 years. China has also sent medical supplies to more than 150 countries and international organizations, and has sent 24 medical teams to various countries. In Europe, voices are divided about China's assistance, while some are also concerned about the future of China-US relations.
Relations between China and the United States have grown increasingly strained. A recent survey shows that a number of Americans view China favorably has hit a low. A lot of people are very concerned that the two countries are moving in the direction of growing further apart and that tensions could possibly escalate to the point of conflict. What is your take? How concerned are you that relations with the United States could further deteriorate? Thank you.
It is most regrettable that while the coronavirus is still out there, a political virus is also spreading in the U.S. and jumping at any opportunity to attack and slander China.
Still, Wang Yi says he's hopeful about finding common ground.
China and U.S. should and must find a way of peaceful coexistence and mutually beneficial cooperation, demonstrating that this is possible between two countries with different systems and cultures.
Chinese President Xi Jinping says the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed many problems with public health systems. He says the world needs to support the role of the World Health Organization in fixing these deficiencies. And Wang Yi says countries need to both support the WHO and listen to what it has to say.
What we are seeing is that those countries that heeded and followed the WHO advice are more successful in bringing the virus under control, while those that ignored or rejected its advice are paying a heavy price.
The pandemic truly shows us the world is a community of the shared destiny. As President Xi says, only through united coordination can all nations address their common challenges. And China will continue to pursue peaceful development and advance friendships and cooperation with other countries to promote world peace, stability, and prosperity. Zheng Yubin, CGTN, Beijing.
On Africa, the Chinese State Council and Foreign Minister Wang Yi says China is working with other G20 members to implement the debt service suspension initiative. This is aimed at easing Africa's debt burden as China mulls further bilateral support for the continent to fight COVID-19. China is to further help Africa strengthen its independent development capabilities, properly arrange major China-Africa cooperation projects, and support African countries hit by the pandemic to resume production.
China and Africa are good brothers who have shared will and woe together. Our people, having fought shoulder to shoulder for national liberation, are partners for common development. A few years back, we were together fighting Ebola. I fully agree with the AU Commission chairperson in saying that Africa and China are friends and, more importantly, comrades in arms. Nothing can change or damage this friendship. In the battle against COVID-19, China and Africa have again stood by each other. Over 50 African leaders have expressed solidarity and support in phone calls or public statements. China has subsequently sent medical expert teams to Africa's 5 sub-regions and surrounding countries. Resident Chinese medical teams based in 45 African countries have acted swiftly to assist in the local response. They have held nearly 400 training sessions for tens of thousands of African medical workers. We also look after the African community in China, just like we take care of our own families. All of the over 3,000 African students in Hubei and Wuhan have been safe and sound, except for just one, who got infected but was soon cured. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. China's relations with Africa have stood the test of time and continue to flourish. We will continue to stand by Africa as it fights the virus. We will send anti-epidemic assistance to African and other developing countries as a matter of priority. We're considering sending more medical expert teams to the continent. China will continue to deliver on the health initiative announced at the FOCAC Beijing summit. We will accelerate construction of the headquarters for the Africa CDC and help boost public health capacity in African nations. In addition, China will continue to work with Africa on development capacity building. We will work out ways to move ahead with major ongoing cooperation projects and support African countries in reopening businesses soon to sustain Africa's economic momentum. We will work with other G20 members to implement the debt service suspension initiative to ease Africa's debt burden. We're also considering further bilateral support for African countries under the greatest strain to help our African brothers and sisters through this difficult time. To quote a Chinese saying, when brothers are of the same mind, they have the power to cut through metal. We're convinced that with help from China and the rest of the global community, the youthful continent of Africa will achieve greater and faster development after defeating COVID-19.
Well, CGTN's Girum Chala had an exclusive interview with Kote Thomas Kwesi, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, who spoke highly of China-Africa relations. He also thanked China for its efforts in helping African countries battle the COVID-19 pandemic. He added that China has set an example for Africa to pull the population out of poverty. Take a listen.
Mr. Kwasi Kwate, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, thank you so much for talking to CGTN. The China-Africa relationship is one of the most remarkable relationships, both in terms of bilateral and multilateral relationships, as we know. But how do you really evaluate the current status and the way it has evolved throughout the years?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Can I begin by thanking the government and people of China for their continued support to Africa, for their belief in Africa in the long term, evidence of which is this magnificent building that was donated to Africa. China, like Africa, has faced problems of invasions, occupation, and as a result of that, understands Africa's position probably better than most. Even when China was a relatively poor country after the victory of the Communist Party in 1949, where Mao Zedong said China stood up. China has been in Africa's camp. They helped with the Tazara Railway. They supported our liberation movements. And lately, the peaceful rise of China is a demonstration to Africa of just what is possible, the right ideology, the right philosophy, the right leadership. So we value the relations with China. We are both historical people. We have a long history.
This China-Africa relationship has also demonstrated its strength at this difficult time of the COVID-19 spread. China has been at the forefront of Africa's battle against the coronavirus. What do you make of this Chinese effort and the synergy between the two?
They have actually assisted in preparing us for the worst aspects. I mean, Jack Ma Foundation shipped 3 plane loads, have helped us to get some points to take these and to have them distributed, and it will be extremely useful. So we appreciate China's support with the PPEs, Jack Ma's foundation. I mean, China has lived up to its promise, and we're very grateful.
In terms of taking lessons from the Chinese experience of economic development or other success in different sectors, what do you think Africa can pick, really?
We believe that the rise of China and the ability to pull over 1 billion people out of poverty is the best example to Africa to show that with unity, proper economic policies, good leadership, integrated community, Africa can become the next manufacturing center and can pull Africans out of poverty as well. So China remains not only an indispensable friend, but also a great example. And the rise of China provides Africa with many other strategic options which otherwise we would not have had. So we really do value our relations with China.
You're watching Africa Live. Still ahead on the program. Over 110,000 coronavirus infections recorded across Africa. And we'll look at how an Egyptian couple uses the lockdown to reconnect.
Each day, there are millions of stories. each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Let's get the latest number of COVID-19 infections on the continent. There are now over 110,000 coronavirus infections across Africa. Over 44,000 patients have recovered. 3,000 people have died of COVID-19 in Africa. South Africa remains the hardest hit with over 21,000 coronavirus cases. Egypt follows with over 16,000 infections. In Eastern Africa, Somalia has the highest number of infections. The Horn of Africa nation has over 1,500 coronavirus cases. The number of COVID-19 cases in neighboring Kenya has soared to 1,214 after 22 people tested positive for the virus on Sunday. The Kenya government confirmed another COVID-19 related fatality, bringing the national death tally to 51. African leaders have set up rules such as the mandatory wearing of masks in public places and imposed curfews and lockdowns to help curb the further spread of the virus. So how is COVID-19 affecting married couples? Well, in Egypt, one couple is taking full advantage of their time together. CGTN's Adel Mahroui caught up with a banker and a social media influencer who are using this time to reconnect with his wife and children.
Islam Fawzi is a famous Egyptian on social media. He makes comic videos to amuse his 500,000 followers. He's going for a ride to get some fresh air and think about his next video. Since Egypt implemented a partial coronavirus lockdown, Islam has been staying at home, which he says has been an eye-opening experience for him.
There is a whole part of my wife's daily life which I've never seen, from the time when the kids go to school and I to work until we come back. There is a whole workload, which when I saw made me admire her more. I encouraged my wife for the effort, but I don't get so excited to help her. I started participating in the house chores a bit, but never became as good as she is.
Islam's work-from-home experiences are an inspiration for his videos, many of which under the partial lockdown have featured his wife and household chores.
Laundry is a catastrophe. The volume of laundry is totally insane. I've made an online video especially for that. There's always something full. If the washing machine is empty, then the drying wires are full, and the laundry basket is full too. If the basket is full, then the washer and the wires are full. Then the dishes. Women spend about 4 to 5 hours daily in this.
Because of his demanding job as a banker, Islam previously had so little time at home. Now he has plenty. It's a unique experience brought on by the lockdown, which has brought the couple's love story to a new level. While many couples blamed COVID-19 pandemic for spending too much time together, these two are enjoying it.
But if that means that Islam would go back to work, then no. I've loved having him at home. I got more attached to him. I want him to remain close, to do the dishes together. It's nice quality time.
By nature, I like everything at home. I don't go out a lot. I've gotten to know my kids better. The number of hours I used to spend with them was not a lot. Now I'm discovering their characters. But my wife, no. I knew her well, and she's still the same.
Islam's sense of humor has brought him millions of online views. It could also be one of the things helping his family get through the lockdown. Adil Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
At least 120 people have been arrested in Hong Kong after protesters were accused of disrupting traffic, damaging property and attacking police officers. This came after Beijing announced its plans to insist on new national security legislation for the city. The protesters gathered in the bustling shopping districts of Causeway Bay and Wan Chai. Demonstrators said the law would erode freedom in the city. It was the biggest flare-up in Hong Kong since COVID-19 lockdowns began. China's legislature is expected to approve a draft resolution on the national security legislation next Thursday. Our reporter at the scene was confronted by angry protesters who broke her cell phone. Meanwhile, some business and political groups in Hong Kong have expressed support for the national security legislation. They say it will help stabilize the business environment and increase investor confidence.
The significance of this joint event is to provide a platform for all those who have been safeguarding our national security. We have 13 conveners, over 1,000 promoters, and we are supported by hundreds of groups.
We have represented many grassroots workers who have been badly affected in the past year. They hope the violence can be contained and Hong Kong can be peaceful again so that they can live and work better.
Hundreds of people have already come out to express their support for us within 2 or 3 hours. We've been waiting for this day for so long, and we really hope the draft decision on a national security law for Hong Kong can be passed and taken into effect soon.
Let's now take a look at your sports news. Here's what's ahead. Online gaming experiences major boom amid the COVID-19 lockdown.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
The coronavirus pandemic has halted all sporting activities. However, for esports, it seems to be business as usual, maybe even better. Many people are now turning to esports as a way of bridging the gap the traditional sport has left. Virtual football tournaments, tennis events and motor racing have seen sporting celebrities pick up controllers and face their fans in a new chapter for esport. CGTN's Duplessis has the details.
That was a good goal there, but unfortunately overall...
Esports is riding the wave of success and global attention, while the rest of the traditional sports world stands by and waits patiently to resume. The worldwide gaming phenomenon that has captured the imagination of millions continues to enjoy immense growth, despite several events being postponed and sports fans being confined to their homes.
It is the closest thing, and it feeds all the needs we have if you're a sporting fan. So obviously, I love traditional sports. I also love esports. I love competition. I love watching the best of the best go against each other. I love the David Goliath stories that come into play, and you can get all of that in esports. I don't think it will ever feed the same thrill as watching your favorite football team run onto a field or watching a goal live, but there's a different thrill that it feeds, and I think for a lot of people, they need that because they're missing it, so it's an easy crossover.
Esports is benefiting from a largely captive audience and is seeing a crossover between the sportsmen and women themselves and gaming, resulting in a huge upswing for the industry.
Definitely. I mean, you see now all you've seen the amount of celebrities, the amount of these, soccer players, everyone. I mean, and it's not necessarily about only the soccer guys playing FIFA or the Formula One guys racing to kind of create that virtual world. It's also those same guys. Like I saw Sergio Aguero racing in a Formula One racing. So, this is part of everybody's everyday lives, but only now it's kind of being brought up because, quite frankly, there's just nothing else to do. But 100%, and again, it's not great to kind of benefit from it, but at the end of the day, we'll take what we can get.
Although South Africa's esports scene is very much in its infancy, the signs are there that the Rainbow Nation possesses the talent to take on the global giants of gaming.
I definitely think we do have the talent to challenge the best, and we've seen it just recently. We had a selection of CSGO, Counter-Strike, Global Offensive players. They actually relocated to America, and I think just this week, if I'm not mistaken, they beat one of the best teams in the world 2 days ago before we chatted, and are now ranked in the top 20 in the world in terms of teams and players. So that speaks for itself, the fact that they could go over with a lot of obstacles, a lot more obstacles than many of the other players they're against, and in a very short space of time get to that level.
The borderless nature of gaming is allowing esports to continue uninterrupted during the global crisis, and as a result could possibly go a long way to help sports brands stifled by the pandemic target a whole new generation of fans who weren't initially interested in traditional sports. The resulting crossover could well be beneficial for esports, but in fact traditional sports too. CS Duplessis, CGTN, Johannesburg.
2 people from 2 Premier League clubs have tested positive for the coronavirus